We do want to welcome in the All-American Jake Butt to the program on the other end of our line. Jake, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good, and I normally don't do this, but maybe this is a little cocky. I was a two-time All-American at Michigan.
Get
When I
some!
walk into the building, it's really cool as they have an All-American wall, and you think about the 130-plus years of Michigan football. There's a pretty big list of one-time All-Americans, and then there's about 20 total two-time All-Americans, and my name's up there. So to be one of 20, got to brag about myself a little bit. It's one of my most proud moments, so. Two-time All-American. It sounds a little bit better. So appreciate you having me on.
Of course, as you should, and we're thrilled to have you. I'm a huge fan, obviously. I think I watched about every snap that you ever played at the University of Michigan, and one of the great tight ends in the history of that program. I want to get right into your story because you've been tweeting about this a little bit, and it's certainly relevant with our day and time. You're seeing now that Kenneth Walker III not going to participate in the bowl game for Michigan State. On the other side, Kenny Pickett's not going to play in the bowl game, the Peach Bowl against Michigan State. You decided in 2016 not just to play your season, but after that controversial loss to Ohio State, you decided to go ahead and play in the Orange Bowl. You suffered a bad injury to your knee. For people who don't know your story, you tore your ACL in the Orange Bowl. Some people said, man, Jake should have sat that out. He would have been a higher draft choice. You've defended that decision, Jake, through the years, and you're talking about it right now on your Twitter feed. Can you shed some insight into your story and why you made that decision to play in 2016?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we could talk for an hour about this because it's such a complex situation, but that's it. A lot of people like to make this black and white. They like to speak in generalities, but I just don't think that applies to this situation. For me, yeah, I was projected to be a first-round draft pick had I came out healthy. I got picked the first pick in the fifth-round draft. You can do the math on the salary loss there. Even with an insurance settlement, it was pretty significant. But it even goes deeper than that. You get to the NFL, and since you get hurt outside of the NFL, you don't get a pension. You don't get benefits. I was not under insurance. I made split salary, so I was making even less money in my first year in the NFL than I would have if I was healthy. So it's a number of things. And the big argument is, well, why play at all? If the bowl game doesn't matter, then none of them matter. And I think that's just an ignorant comment that, again, ignores the bigger picture. You look at Kenneth Walker, you look at Kenny Pickett, they greatly improved their draft stock through their body of work throughout the entire season, right? So they significantly made more money and improved their draft stock. What is there to gain by playing in this bowl game? Probably not much. The upside is minimal, but the downside, if you go through a significant injury, is very, very high. So it's all a risk-reward analysis. For these guys, they say, hey, man, the reward isn't worth the risk. I'm going to sit out. I'm also going to start training for the Combine in December. The Combine's in March. If you play a New Year's Eve Bowl, you don't start your Combine training till mid-January. That gives you 3 months. If you know you're done, you're starting Combine prep mid-December. That gives you a whole nother month to get ready and prep for the Combine, which will probably lead to even more money. And frankly, man, the world's changing. So you could either be like that, the old man screaming, get off my lawn, or you can adapt, figure out how to make it work for you. And the world's changing, whether we like it or not. This is the reality of the landscape of college football.
You have stated on your Twitter feed that you don't regret playing in the Orange Bowl. For you wanted to play. It seems like you would regret it, though. I mean, if somebody could look at your story and say, man, he could have had a bigger NFL impact. He could have made more money. Why do you feel that it was the right choice for you to play in that game?
Yeah, all that's true. I mean, you can't really be argued that I would have made more money. You could definitely argue that after that, I never really got healthy in the NFL. I got injured. So it sucks that I didn't get to live out my dream and really get a chance to fully compete and do what I could in the NFL. But, and this is another thing, is I have different principles and values than most people. I've come to learn, especially in mostly through trial. There's an emotional growth, there's a physical growth, a relational growth, a spiritual growth that happens that, it's kind of like the old saying, molded by fire, I've learned so much about myself. I've grown so much. Some people wait an entire lifetime to learn the lessons that I've learned now, and I'm 26 years old. So I put heavy emphasis on that. I mean, I I'm still in a much better position financially than most 26-year-olds in the world. So I can't complain about that. But the lessons I've learned hold significant weight in my life, and I put value on that. But who are we to say for another man, for another guy, they may not have the same principles and values on me, and it's not for me to decide, what another man puts value on. So that's just my story. Let's let the kids make the story for themselves.
That's a great commentary, and your story is really inspirational to me. I remember hearing that you were going to come back for 2016 to play with Coach Harbaugh and your teammates, and that was important to you. And you guys had a great season. Obviously, the controversial loss to Ohio State, and I want to talk about the Buckeyes for a minute, if I can, Jake. Where were you? Take me to the second overtime. When it all went down, and the controversial play where did did he make the first down or not? Were you on the sideline? Did you have a look at that play, and what were kind of your emotions during that game?
Yeah, I mean, you start with early in the game, and they couldn't move the ball against our defense. And we were putting up points and really dominating them early. And I kept thinking to myself, like, damn, dude, we're gonna smack Ohio State in their own stadium, like the massacre in Columbus, Ohio. I kept thinking, but we had some untimely mistakes. We fumbled the ball on the 6-inch yard line going into score. I think we would have went up 3 scores. Another interception. We really beat ourselves. But even with that being said, you're sitting there. I was sitting down on our sideline on the opposite end of the field when J.T. Barrett was tackled there. And I remember looking at the replay and thinking, oh, he's short, He's definitely short. And I think you could hear the energy leave the stadium. Buckeye fans were nervous as hell that he was going to be called short. Ultimately, they didn't. And you don't like to complain. You'd never want to put the game in the ref's hands. We had plenty of opportunities to win. Still could have won and should have won. But that call was honestly, obviously a big, big call. But, it is what it is, man. It sucks. Sometimes you win. Sometimes you're on the right side of history. Sometimes you're on the wrong side of history. You kind of pick yourself up and you move on. And here you go. Look at the team this year, and we'll talk about them, I'm sure. But it feels like the revenge tour because my senior year, 16, we lost to Iowa. We lost to Ohio State. Had the talent to be Big Ten champions. Didn't do it. And then we lost in the Orange Bowl. What did this team do this year? They beat Ohio State. They beat Iowa. They're Big Ten champs, and now they're going down to the Orange Bowl to possibly go right through the heart of the SEC, taking on Georgia with a chance to play for the national championship. It just feels sweet, man. Everything feels right in the world with Michigan back, at the pinnacle of college football.
We're talking to the great two-time All-American Jake Butt from the University of Michigan. The kid ended his career. Listen to these numbers. I mean, I was looking at your stats this morning. 138 receptions at Michigan, over 1,600 yards, 11 touchdowns, some incredible memories and great wins. And what a story you have from your playing time at Michigan. 4 full years, started with 20 catches as just a freshman with a couple of touchdowns. You obviously were there for Brady Hoke for a couple of years and Jim Harbaugh for a couple of years. What was it like when Brady left? Did you think about your sort of decision to go to Michigan at that point? Were you excited that Harbaugh was coming in? What was that like for Jake Butt when all of that transition was taking place right in the heart of your college career?
Yeah, it's funny. I grew up in Columbus, Ohio, and for those of you guys that don't know out there, don't hold this against me because I bleed maize and blue, but I grew up a Buckeye fan. So I never once in a million years thought I was going to go to Michigan. And it's funny, I remember Brady Hoke's second year, we were 5-7. We were at home for Christmas, which is unacceptable, no bowl game. I remember sitting in my tight end coach's office midseason. We were losing to teams we should have never lost to. And I broke down, and I started crying, and I'm like, Coach, I pointed at my chest. I was wearing a Block M hoodie. I'm like, this Block M means something to me. Wearing that winged helmet, it means something to me. Playing this game, I don't take it for granted. Use me. I don't care. Whatever I could do to help the team win, just let me loose, man. I want to go out there and play and help these guys win. It just meant that much. And obviously with Brady leaving, I love Coach Hoke, but, I was always solution-based, problem-solving. What can we do to win? And then you get Coach Harbaugh coming in, obviously a renowned coach in the NFL and college football, and what he was best at was changing the culture. And he put us to work from day one. But we were okay with it. I think that kind of shows the DNA of the guys we had. We wanted to work. We didn't care what the work was. We wanted to win. We were tired of losing. We didn't care how long practice was or how long meetings were. We were going to put in the work. And, obviously back-to-back 10-win seasons. I think we laid the foundation to bring Michigan back to the national conversation. which is what we're most proud of. And here you are today. You're seeing Michigan, basically raise the bar even higher. So it's good to see.
Interesting stuff there. And I wanted to ask you about Coach Harbaugh because after your 2 years, he's had some struggles against Ohio State, struggles against Michigan State, a really kind of a disastrous year last year in the COVID season with just 2 wins. And you were starting to hear both locally and nationally, Jake, some whispers that maybe Coach Harbaugh is not long for this job in Ann Arbor. And he comes back this year and has the best Michigan football season in a long time. What did you think when you started to hear that Coach could be up against it a little bit, and were you surprised, frankly, that they were able to turn it around this year?
Couple things, I think people make emotional decisions, and the world of social media is instantaneous and emotional. But no one considers the opportunity cost. If you're going to get rid of Coach Harbaugh, you better be damn sure you're going to hire an improvement, and find me much better coaches than Jim Harbaugh. You won't, There's a handful, if any, that are better at coaching the game of football, that love the game of football like Coach Harbaugh. And, sometimes the hardest things to do in an emotional world is to do nothing and to trust yourself. So in that sense, I credit Ward Manuel. I credit Jim Harbaugh for saying, hey, listen, let's just stick to our process, man. Let's give this one more chance. COVID year, it wasn't where we wanted to be. It was a strange year all in all. We got a senior team. We got guys coming back. We believe in ourselves. Let's see what we can do this year. And sure enough, no one gave him a shot. The over-under win total was 7.5. So shout out to whoever hammered the over on that to start the season, printing money. And here you go, Jim. It's just so great to see, for him to silence the critics, for him to win Ohio State in the fashion that he won, for him to go to the Big Ten Championship and see him raise the trophy. It's been a long time coming, man, and it's long, long overdue. It's great to see people starting to give him some respect. So if you do listen, man, it's hard to win. If Michigan does falter in the future, remember these times. Remember how you felt last year, man. There's an ebb and flow to it. We got a damn good ball coach in Jim Harbaugh.
Good stuff from Jake Butt, our guest today on the Timeout Show. A couple more things, if you have a minute, Jake. Were you at the Ohio State game this year? As a Michigan fan, it was emotional to watch the kids. My son is a freshman at the University of Michigan. He was part of the throng down on the field, and it's a moment he'll never forget. Were you at the game, and what were your emotions kind of watching the Wolverines finally get it done this year against Ohio State?
Man, emotional is the best word for it. I was sitting right behind the bench, about the 45-yard line behind Michigan's bench. And, it's Thanksgiving weekend. You remember when, Grandma throws the turkey in the oven back when you were a kid growing up, and all your aunts and uncles, you go out in the backyard, you play the mud bowl, and the snow's falling. It's a little bit wet. It's a little bit muddy. It just feels like football, and you're sitting there in the big house. You're playing for it all against your cross-the-border rival Ohio State, and the snow's falling. Who's going to seize the moment? I thought Michigan seized the moment. My favorite moment of the game is when Roman Wilson got in that little tussle in the end zone. And, there's a kind of buzz around the stadium. Everybody's standing up out of their seats. The refs are having a conversation. Everyone's wondering what's going to happen. And as Michigan did all season, you remember the jump around in Wisconsin. You remember him at Nebraska.
Absolutely.
All the guys run over right behind the bench, and Aiden Hutchinson rips off his helmet. All the O-linemen rip off their helmet. They're pumping up the crowd. And all of a sudden, the quiet, suspenseful crowd just goes nuts. We owned that moment, and that's intimidating. There's a part of football that's intimidating. That was awesome to see them own the moment. They did not blink. They did not turn away. And ultimately, you saw the result that they were able to get in that game. It was great to see.
How much of a connection, Jake, do you have with the current team? Like, for instance, Eric All, really the primary tight end right now for this squad.
Yeah.
Have you met Eric, and do you have any connection with the team, obviously with your rich history in the program?
Yeah, I love those guys, man. And I try to – I don't want to overstep my boundaries, but I love this team. I love this program. I love the guys. I do – stay in touch with Eric and Luke, Joel Horningford, another guy, converted O-lineman. Stay in touch, help when I can. Maybe this offseason, now that I'm back in Ann Arbor, I can, help them when they're in their quiet period with the coaches. Would be great to do that. But, it's not about me, though, so I never want to make it there. It's about what these guys are able to do. And specifically, the tight ends, they play so damn hard every week. You see the one-handed catches by Eric the touchdown in the Big Ten championship. Luke Schoonmaker, he had a one-hand catch. But it's their effort and tenacity they play with and the passion they take the field with every week. The way they block and snap people's necks back is what, I'm most proud of and love to watch, more than anything.
Jake Butt is a two-time All-American. So many fans around here in Hillsdale County in southern Michigan, just a huge fan of yours, all the great memories, and the fact that you're still connected to that program and following and really building a following on Twitter. And we'll talk about your future in just a minute. I was inspired by Aiden Hutchison and the running back
Blake Corum, Hassan Haskins.
Corum and Haskins, both of them, but Haskins in particular in the Ohio State game that just would not be denied. And frankly, Cade McNamara too, his leadership. Those guys, they brought some leadership that I thought was really needed, and I just felt like they were not going to be denied. Did you get that sense from guys like that this was the year that they were going to do something different?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And to start the season when there was a lot of uncertainty, I was doing a little bit of podcast with some people. Leadership wins, People fall in love with the flashy numbers and the highlight plays. You know what Cade McNamara is? Is he's steady. You know what Hassan Haskins is? Is he's steady. You don't hear a word out of Hassan Haskins, do you? He just puts up 5 touchdowns against Ohio State. He puts up 200 all-purpose yards against Penn State. He's a bell cow, Aiden Hutchinson. We don't want you to play your biggest moments against Indiana. We want you to put up 15 quarterback pressures against Ohio State. That's why I have such confidence in this team is, our best players are also our biggest leaders, are also our steadiest captains. They show up and they're consistent every single day. And when you're below that or behind that, you just fall in line. You follow your leaders. So, will not be denied is the best way to describe it. The passion they played with. You watch the offensive line. Those guys just could steadily move the line of scrimmage down the field to the point where it looked like the Ohio State front seven really didn't even want to get physical with them. It's beautiful to see, man, and it's been a long time coming. We're going to need more of that in the future.
Oh, man, it's so great to talk with Jake Butt today. You're getting me fired up over here. My crew is in getting jacked up as well. A couple of last things for you. Looking forward into the bowl game, obviously, Georgia has been the number one team all season. They've got basically an NFL front seven. Their defense is really their calling card. I don't know how much you've scouted Georgia or looked into this matchup, but I know you're heading to the game. Can you give our listeners a little of Jake Butt's sort of feel as we head down the stretch and head into that bowl game?
Yeah, so you got a ball game. Georgia's the number 2 defense in the country. You know who's number 1, though? Wisconsin. And we were able to find some cracks against Wisconsin's defense. We had some success. Hassan Haskins and Blake Corum, neither of them had 50 yards rushing against Wisconsin, but I think the key to that game is going to be the key to this game. You can't get bored with the 3 to 5 yard runs, right? You're not just going to crack off 30-yard runs against a stellar Georgia defense, especially when you got big number 99 Jordan Davis there. 6'6", 300 pounds, plus 350, can run, he can move. Nothing's gonna come easy, but it's a steady game. You just continue to commit to the run. You chip away slowly but surely. You wear on this Georgia defense. You lean on them like a boxer, and eventually you're going to find the cracks. And at that point, you get down in the red zone. You need 7 points, not 3. I think we've done that down the stretch, and you're going to give yourself a chance. I don't think either team is built to blow out the other. I actually think Michigan's offense is better suited to find cracks against Georgia's defense than vice versa. So I think if Michigan can get into that 25-plus, 30-plus point range, I think they got a really good chance to win this game. And listen, man, these opportunities are fleeting. These guys understand the moment like we just talked about. They know how big this is. They're not going to blink. They're going to show up ready and give it their all to get a chance to, raise the big trophy and play for a national championship.
It's a great point. There was some fear from anxiety-filled Michigan fans that, you beat Ohio State, you're going to overlook Iowa in the Big Ten championship game, and they laid the smackdown on the Hawkeyes in that big stage down in Indianapolis. You love to see it, don't you, Jake?
Love it. And it was a smackdown, but it just kind of felt steady. I didn't really there was no explosive scoring periods. It was just steady. We're just moving the ball and scoring. We're just, maybe Iowa gets a couple plays, but we stop them. It's just a steady win. Just a good team win. They seem to be playing their best ball right now, and they're going to need to play their best ball against Georgia.
All right, two last things for Jake, and I swear I'll let you. I could talk to Jake Butt for a week, I think, but we're going to let you go here in just a minute. So, thank you so much for your time, by the way. Looking at recruiting last week, obviously Michigan landed most of their targets. My friend Jed here's got his Block M on his hat, and he wanted me to ask you about the recruiting process. Obviously, you're from the state of Ohio. Michigan has had some success, obviously getting some Ohio student athletes through the years. How important is it for Michigan going forward to have a presence in the state of Ohio recruiting-wise?
It is imperative, and it's not just Ohio. It's Michigan, it's Pennsylvania, it's the Midwest breed. You know, for a while there, we kind of got away from it. We started to go to the East Coast, Massachusetts, Delaware, and I got nothing against those states, but I'm from Ohio. We play some damn good football down there, you know? So you got to have a presence there in Ohio, and there's a respect and understanding about the rivalry. I wasn't sleeping Ohio State week, man. The hair on the back of my neck would stand up when I walk into a restaurant and I see somebody wearing scarlet and gray, you know? I have an understanding and a respect for the rivalry. If you grow up in Michigan or Ohio or Pennsylvania, you have that same level of respect for the rivalry and you understand what it means and you prepare for it 24/7, 365. So to have those guys back in, again, it's culture, it's leadership, it's respect for the game of football, and all that matters, you know. And, to talk about recruiting too is when you win the big games, you know, Ohio State, their biggest selling point to these recruits, we're recruiting the same 5 stars and 4 stars, you know. They would just say, hey, why would you ever go to Michigan? We beat them every year. We go to the Big Ten championship every year. We're the ones going to the college football playoff. Well, now Jim has that extra arsenal on top of a world-renowned academic institution, the #1 alumni base in the world, and a national stage football program. You know, that was the missing piece. You should see recruiting continue to climb and improve throughout the years, which, you know, should lead to more success in and of itself.
Man, Harbaugh needs to bring you in the fold. Yeah, why are you not out recruiting on the? You should be on the recruiting trail for Michigan. You got us all fired up here in the studio.
I know.
Oh
I
man.
sit with the recruits. I sit with the recruits in the stadium, and you know, you're selling the parents. So I always tell the parents the same thing. You know, is you got it all here, and in the world of NIL, you know, maybe another school offers you 10,000, 20,000 more. If you play the game, there's a game to be played in life. If you play the game right, you get a Michigan degree, and you treat your network with respect, you're going to make 10, 20 grand back 100 times over throughout the course of your lifetime. So any recruit looking for the total package, I don't know where else you would consider other than the Michigan Wolverines.
Man, that's fantastic. I wanted to ask you, my son Owen, as I mentioned, is a freshman. He's sitting right here. He's going to be on here in a minute. As a Michigan graduate, what advice do you have for my freshman kid here? Can you give him something that he can kind of hold on to as he goes through his Michigan career?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think there's a lot of pressure for young people to have all the answers, and there was a point in time where I thought I had all the answers, and then there's a big time breakdown when you realize you actually don't know shit, and you probably never will. You know, so the goal really is to stay steady. And, you know, Rome wasn't built in a day. You're not going to be an overnight success. So focus on building these little wins day over day over day. Eventually that's going to stack to big-time progress, and you'll be able to do anything you put your mind to, you know. Nobody's got this thing figured out. Just keep stacking wins. Learn from your failures. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to lose. That's where the growth happens. And, you'll look back in 10 years and you won't even recognize yourself from a decade ago. So go get it, man. You got the Michigan degree and the Michigan alumni base behind you. The world will be your oyster.
Where did you stay freshman year, Jake?
West Quad.
Owens, have you ever heard of Oxford Dorm?
Yeah, I know Oxford.
Obi-Wan, my son, was in Oxford, and
nice.
He's right by this massive frat that plays loud music all the time. He's loving life right now. He had a little bit of fun. He had a little bit of fun that Ohio State weekend, I have to say.
Yeah, well, I think we all did, right? And, hey, maybe we'll have a great reason to celebrate New Year's Eve this year if Michigan can pull it off, too. So it's a great holiday season.
Oh, for sure.
It's the best one I've ever been a part of.
For sure. Last thing for Jake, and we'll get you out of here. Your profile on Twitter, you're starting to create some content. You're getting involved in these conversations about NIL, about whether or not to play in the bowl game. And what's next for Jake Butt? I know your playing career is over a little bit sooner than we all would have wished, but the future's still really bright for you. What do you have coming down the pike?
Yeah. I got a great passion and love and respect for the game of football. So it looks like broadcasting, whether it's in an analyst type role or color role or doing shows like this, that's the future. That's where I'm headed. If you guys like this content, you can follow me on Twitter at JakeButtTE. The TE stands for tight end. And we'll be putting out more and more content, more opportunities for, us to interact. And if you love Michigan football, we got some cool stuff coming up where we can really dive deep into the why of why this team's having so much success. I think people are really interested in that. You see the end result, but the story is in the why and the how. And I think I got a good feel for that. So, follow me on Twitter. Stay tuned. There'll be more of this, only more going forward. I really love it. And I love interacting with Michigan fans. You can tweet me anytime. I'll get back to you and try to interact with you. So I appreciate the love and support, man. This is an awesome community, and go Blue.
Jake Butt, B-U-T-T, and then T-E for tight end. That's the Twitter handle. The graduate of the University of Michigan, NFL player, a two-time All-American, and a fantastic Michigan man. Jake, have a great holiday. Thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, anytime. Happy holidays to you guys.